in Christianity. It is located in Gaza and has been bombarded by Israel too, where Christians have taken refuge, and then, of course, many of them have fallen victims of such bombardment. Now, what we are asking for? We are asking for the end of such an aggression and the end of this war, because this is not a war. You know, war is between two armies, but this is really one-sided war. It is really war by airplanes, by artillery tanks, just throwing their massive bombs into Gaza. That's the type of war. It's a war not directed by military plans and military objectives, but directed by revenge. And when it is really directed by revenge, then there are no norms respected. There is the law of war, which has been really totally violated. All international laws, including international humanitarian law, has been violated by Israel. And that's why we came to the ICC, because we said, you know, if Israel is violating all international laws, then who should really look at it? That's very important. If the Israelis are committing so many crimes, war crimes, crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing, forcible transfer, you know, annihilation, and even, you know, symptoms of genocide, then the ICC and the other, you know, specialized bodies have to look into that. That's very serious. So first, we have to end that aggression. We have to end that one-sided war. And then we have to call for a ceasefire. Ceasefire is essential, it's very important. In all wars, ceasefire is the first to be thought of and the first to be implemented. Now they are talking about new concepts, humanitarian pause. What that means, humanitarian pause? It means that, you know, you could stop bombarding for half an hour and then renew it immediately after. Or you could really stop bombarding here, but you will continue in there. This is not acceptable. Because at the end of the day, if we want to bring in humanitarian assistance into Gaza, how we are going to do it when we are constantly shelled, bombarded? How we are going to do it? Who will be safe to do it? And where to do it? How we can move from one place to another? How we can distribute that without ceasefire? So ceasefire is essential for the success of the work to distribute humanitarian aid. Israel, by cutting electricity and water, by cutting fuel, you know, they are committing war crime. By forcing people to starvation, they are committing a war crime. By forcibly transferring people from the north to the south, this is really war crime. And so many war crimes are committed by Israel. Here, right now, what we are seeking is accountability. Accountability, and that's important. And it's very important that specialized bodies have to start working in that direction. Ceasefire is essential, is very important. We have to start bringing in water, electricity, food, fuel, medical supplies, medical equipments, and even medical teams. Because imagine, many medical teams have been shot and killed while in duty. Even who are operating in Gaza, they cannot cope with the huge number of injured people. We are talking about 20,000 injured people in Gaza. We need medical, groups, medical teams to be able to go there and to operate and really even to help. The danger is whoever survived the bombardment might not survive if he is or she is injured and there is a lack of medical treatment, medicine or equipment or what have you. And if there is no water, then there is a possibility that people will die. But also, we are talking about diseases that started really spreading all over Gaza as a result of lack of hygiene because of war. When a school like UNRWA, hosts 10,000, people, and with 3, bathrooms, how such people could really maintain their hygiene, how such people could really prevent the spread of all type of diseases. So we are watching a huge humanitarian catastrophe developing, in Gaza if we do not intervene and if we not intervene immediately. So entering as humanitarian assistance is essential. We have to prevent the forcible transfer of people. That's also a war crime. They cannot do it. And we have to provide protection to the Palestinian people in Gaza. But also when I speak about Gaza, I should not also neglect what's happening in the West Bank. Maybe it's not in the same dimension in terms of numbers, destruction, but also one has to watch carefully what's happening there. 102 Palestinians have been killed since October 7th by Israeli soldiers and by Israeli settlers. 2,000 Palestinians have been injured since October 7th. Every day there are so many military incursions into Palestinian cities, villages, refugee camps in the West Bank. Settlers are rampaging everywhere, violently attacking villages under the protection of the Israeli army. The Israeli minister Ben Gvir have distributed 40,000 pieces of arms to the settlers, arming the settlers. So what the settlers will do, violent settlers with arms in their hands, uncontrollable ones. And that's why we will see more death, more killing by settlers against innocent Palestinians, civilians in the West Bank. We have seen them attacking Huwara, torching homes with people inside, torching cars, destroying infrastructures. This is really unacceptable. So the West Bank is a situation that requires also attention, especially that the Israeli settlers are taking advantage, that the world is focusing their attention to what's happening in Gaza. So let us really do everything that we want and we couldn't do before in the West Bank. It's very important that everybody takes note of that, and to see, you know, how we can move really forward. We have been speaking to so many foreign leaders. I have spoken to all my colleagues from the European countries, United States of America, you know, even China and many others, about the need to have a collective effort by the international community to force Israel to stop such an aggression against Gaza and to call for a ceasefire. That's very essential and very important. So this is really our objective. This is really our aim to do so. This morning, speaking with the prosecutor of the ICC to see what role they would play and what kind of action they will undertake, you know, in view of the deteriorating situation in the Gaza Strip. Yesterday we were also in the ICJ, where we made our second written submission to the ICJ regarding the situation in Palestine. You know that the General Assembly of the United Nations have taken a decision, a resolution, voted for a resolution asking the ICJ for an advisory opinion about the situation in the occupied Palestinian territories and about the responsibility, collective responsibility of individual countries and international organizations regarding in such situation. And so yesterday we presented our second written submission, and we are looking forward for the oral one, you know, starting February 19th of next year. This is really a part of our work. We have been in the Security Council 2 days ago. We participated, we spoke, and we listened to a number of countries who have also spoken, you know, unprecedented number of countries who have spoken in this open debate, about, you know, 95 countries, which is really unprecedented. It shows that many countries, members of the United Nations, you know, are worried about the deteriorated situation, and they want to see, you know, change taking place. And that's why it's very important. Today there is a debate in the General Assembly, the renewal of the 10th emergency session of the General Assembly. The debate is today, and tomorrow there will be a resolution that should be really voted on. So we are doing what we can in order really just to help alleviate the situation, stop the aggression, and, you know, save lives of innocent people. This is really very important. We have to work to save lives of innocent people on both sides. That's very important. So I stop here. If anyone has any question, I'm ready really to answer.
Could you please introduce yourself for the...
Please.
You spoke to the prosecutor, and we know they have opened investigations previously, specifically into settlements in the West Bank and Israeli conduct in the Gaza Strip. Have you also spoken about Hamas conduct in Israel? Because when we spoke to the prosecutor 2 weeks ago, he said they also have jurisdiction over that. And the question is, do the Palestinian authorities also cooperate into possible investigation on that aspect?
Well, you know, that's the work of the prosecutor. It's not really my work. The prosecutor knows exactly what are his limitations, the scope of work, the scope of action of his mandate, that really was given to him by us also in terms of the referral. And so he knows that. We cannot really interfere. We cannot say that, investigate here and don't investigate there. This is his full responsibility. We recognize that and we accept it. What we want to see is an immediate follow-up in terms of that investigation, which there should not be any delay in continuing such an open investigation. And right now the situation in Gaza, is so dangerous that really it requires immediate intervention by the prosecutor when it comes to his responsibilities within the ICC in order really to see what could be done to halt that atrocities and also to punish the culpables.
Would you say that the Palestinian authorities are giving their full cooperation to the
Well, we have been working with the prosecutor. We were the ones, as state party, as State of Palestine, we are the ones who have, made the referral. And we understood from the beginning what that really entails. And we have no, misinterpretations of the mandate, of the prosecutor when it comes to this. Absolutely. Please.
Nibar from Al Jazeera, English. You're pretty clear about your dissatisfaction towards this so-called humanitarian cause. What does it feel like as a top diplomat to see one Western country after another repeatedly provide unequivocal support to Israel going forward? What prospect is there for negotiation, and what pushback is there from the likes of you when the United States, France, the UK stand firm by Israel and their ongoing position?
Well, to be frank with you, we have seen it at different levels. At one level, yes, there is a full backing and full support by the West to Israel. And frankly speaking, we are not surprised to see that really happening. But also, they are talking, they themselves are talking about the different international law order, the respectability of that, international law order, especially IHL in terms of proportionality and distinction. And they are talking that they cannot tolerate that, made any distinction between the life of Israelis and the life of Palestinians. That, all lives matter, and that's important. We also see another aspect. We see that, they are calling for, some of them they are calling for ceasefire, some of them they are calling for humanitarian pause. But we know that, for example, the European Union today and tomorrow, they are meeting in order to see if they will agree on the concept of the ceasefire. So the discussions of the European Union today and tomorrow is about this particular matter, and I believe that they will go for a ceasefire. Finally, such countries, despite all such difficulties, and despite the fact that they went to Israel to show their solidarity, they did not forget to mention that, that there is a need to work for the two-state solution, and that, there is a need to resume the political negotiations, and that there is a need, to see a political horizon and the resumption of the political negotiations. All of them, without any exception, they refer to that. And that's really important. When you look at it from all these dimensions, I can take, the last one and the second one, and maybe, I can understand why the first one took place. But believe me, if I don't want really to be also in a way critical, but most, if not all, the leaders who have went to Israel to show solidarity, they have some of their citizens being taken hostage by Hamas. If not majority, if not all of them, the majority of them. So when you see why the Dutch went there, why the Canadians went there, why the Americans went there, why the French went there, etc., you will see that all of them, they have a number of citizens being taken hostage, by Hamas. So it is really part of their national duty to show their citizens that they care about, the 3 or 4 or 5 citizens that they have been abducted by Hamas. So is this really the reason behind going to Israel? Maybe not.
Are you suggesting there's a more nuanced conversation going on behind the scenes, away from the cameras at the UN, for instance?
Well, we know that there is tremendous effort for the release of at least, the civilians. And, that Qatar is doing, an excellent work. With all respect, they have been working very hard behind the scene, in order really to make sure that, to use their leverage to see that, civilians are being really released. And so why not? We are in favor of the release of civilians. This is really was part of the resolution that was really adopted by the Arab foreign ministers in the Arab League, last week, when we condemned the killing of civilians on both sides, and we called for the release, unconditional release of civilians and really and prisoners. So that's really the position that we do have.
بس ما حدا عم بيعمل كفاية إلنا.
إيه؟
بس ما حدا عم بيعمل كفاية إلنا.
ما حدا إيش؟
عم بيعمل كفاية لينقذ روح الناس.
Okay. Yes.
Well, it's recently introduced the word two-state solution. These words have not been mentioned by the international community for years. And suddenly it pops up everywhere. Yesterday, Biden spoke there again. But considering the situation on the ground, so many things have changed the past years with the settlers, the settlements, the kind of government that is now governing Israel. How realistic do you think, and that's, after this war, that there can be a two-state solution?
I think it's more than ever that the two-state solution is more relevant and more possible. We have to turn any crisis into an opportunity, and the fact that all countries are talking about the need to go back to the negotiations, all leaders are talking about the roots of the problem, going back to the roots of the problem. The problem did not start on October 7th, not at all. The problem started 75 years ago, and the occupation have started 56 years ago of West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip. And so that's very serious. Now, we know that Israel, since day one, they have been obstructing the applicability of the two-state solution, making it irrelevant by building, settlements, by creating facts on the ground, and by changing realities in a way that it will be difficult, if not impossible, to go to the two-state solution. But what is really the alternative? we don't have an alternative. The two-state solution is a solution that we reached to after so many years of discussion among the international community. We reached a consensus that this is really the most viable solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
In a completely different situation.
Yes, of course. It's really a different situation then. But, you know, now everybody's talking about that the need to go back to the roots and to discuss how we can not manage the conflict, but to resolve it. Because many countries have been trying to manage the conflict for so many years. Right now, they do believe that managing the conflict has not gotten us anywhere, and that right now there is a need to resolve the conflict. And resolving the conflict meaning that there is a need for the materialization of the state of Palestine to be next to the state of Israel on the 67 borders with East Jerusalem as capital. Now, nothing is easy. No one is telling, you know, that, you know, tomorrow Israel will accept to go back to the negotiating table and resume negotiations on the two-state solution. Because even, you know, when we talk about the two-state solution, Israelis, maybe Netanyahu, has a different interpretation of two-state solution than our interpretation of the two-state solution. So maybe there is a need to define what we mean by two-state solution, to have a common, you know, definition, in order for us not to find ourselves having different interpretations of the two-state solution. But believe me, if we are talking about, and it seems right now there is a clear world awakening, that time now, what's happening in Gaza is awakening everybody that we have to deal with the conflict in a way to resolve it and not to manage it. This is what we heard from many foreign leaders. And so we are ready to work with them closely in order to see, you know, the implementation of such ideas, either in an international peace conference or through the Security Council, a resolution, or in any other format. It doesn't matter. But what is really essential and is very important, that the moment that this war, one-sided war, is ended, you know, we have to be prepared and ready, you know, how to resume that prospect. Because, you know, we have to provide and to give people hope. And that hope cannot come, you know, on Israeli tanks. That hope should come through development and should really come through a political horizon. That's essential. Please.
You spoke today very highly of international organizations bringing accountability for the crimes that have occurred in the last few weeks and in the previous years. The investigation into Palestine by the ICC was first referred in 2014. There was a previous about the wall in the West Bank that Israel has ignored completely. Do you feel optimistic? Do the Palestinian people feel optimistic that international justice has something to offer them?
What other choice do we have? You know, we have to stick to what's really available and to strengthen what we have and to create and to build consensus, you know, about it. That's essential. That's important. Believe me, when we came to the ICC, we knew, you know, the limitations, the bureaucracy, the limitations, you know, of the ICC, but also we are aware that they cannot really ignore the reality that's happening, you know, in Gaza, and that reality will compel them in order really to act and to act rapidly. I do believe that the fact that, you know, in the last week, 4 resolutions were presented and voted in the Security Council about the situation in Gaza is an indicator that, you know, so many countries are doing their utmost in order really to see how a ceasefire could take place. The fact that the General Assembly will resume its emergency session today is another you know, indicator of the importance of such situation. So yes, I do believe that, you know, we have to activate the few mechanisms available. We cannot create new mechanisms, not now, but, you know, we have to activate what we have, and we have to put full gear on, you know, what they should do in terms of their mandate and their responsibility. We are not going to allow them just, you know, to go like that. We will stick with them, and we will keep, you know, working with them, you know, pushing them, you know, to take up their responsibilities and, you know, to act upon the situation, you know, responsibly.
Thomas Berfuss, Journalist for Justice, National Radio. Excellency, investigations of the International Criminal Court are notorious for taking a long time. Often it takes years until there is a first visible result, certainly in a given situation. First visible result would be a first arrest warrant. One of the reasons for this is that situations are complicated legally and factually. If we look at events around Gaza years ago, there are different conflicting notions and principles, proportionality, distinction, human shields, right to defend oneself, etc. But there seems to be one possible war crime that seems to be plain and obvious, the settlements. Because the chief advisor of the Israeli government on international law, Theodor Meron, later on president of the ICTY here in Lahaai, advised the government that it's illegal to colonize occupied territory. The International Court of Justice said that the settlements are illegal. That the evidence seems to be plain just by government press releases of the Israeli government when settlements are further expanded. So have you discussed with Prosecutor Khan why even before your referral, this was not a matter for him to operate properly or more to, in the light of plain evidence, in order also to send a clear signal as far as one of the main obstacles to peace is concerned. Have you spoken to Prosecutor Khan about a time frame on this alleged book?
You know, we wish that, you know, the prosecutor can really give us, you know, a time frame about, you know, when to complete his investigation. But I know that he has established a unified team on Palestine, and such team has been strengthened by adding others into it, and that such team is doing, you know, full investigation, and that, you know, meetings are taking place between them and between us on a technical basis. We have been reporting to them on a monthly basis about the situation in Palestine in terms of settlements, but also in terms of crimes, violations committed by Israel, soldiers, settlers, you know, the whole Israeli enterprise. You know, that's important. And they are aware of everything that is taking place. Yes, I agree with you that, you know, settlement is an easy matter because, you know, settlements is, there's one side who is really responsible for that. The situation in Gaza and the different wars in Gaza, you are talking about two parties. And so, yes, it could be much easier for us to focus on the one, you know, in settlements. But, you know, it's up to the prosecutor to decide, you know, how to approach, you know, the Palestinian file for him and his team, you know, they are dealing with the two aspects, the one in Gaza, the situation in Gaza, but also the situation in the West Bank in terms of settlements. And we are providing them with all the information needed in order for them, you know, just to take action. We hope, we were pushing them and asking them to accelerate the process. Always they say that, you know, they have limited financial resources and limited personnel resources, and they have so many open investigations around the world, and they cannot really cope with that. But obviously, you know, there are certain priorities, and right now what's happening in Gaza is an indicator that, you know, the situation in Palestine is getting more attention from the ICC than, you know, other, you know, type of investigation.
Last question.
Stephanie Mopa from Le Monde. I'd like to know if the ICG decision will be of use for future peace negotiation. How are you going to use the future decision of the ICJ? And if in the second round of it, there were a lot of states, or how many states will participate in this case?
Well, you know, in the first round of submissions, there were 57 submissions by countries and by international organizations, which really was one of the highest, you know, in terms of submissions. Now, for the second round of submissions, we understand that, you know, the number is not going to be equal, because it's not necessarily that, you know, all the 57 will use their right to have second submission. So this means, you know, the number will decrease sharply, but that's in no way reflects, you know, any kind of disinterest by such countries. I think, you know, what we going to see is when we will start the oral hearings. Because, you know, in the oral hearings, you know, they will invite all countries, not only the ones who have made submissions, but any country could really participate in the oral hearings. There, we will see how many countries will come, will participate, and what kind of you know, participation they will have. That's for sure. Yes, you know, as you know, the decision that was taken by the General Assembly to ask for this consultative opinion is of great importance. Now, we do expect that since they have decided that February 19th will be the beginning of the oral hearing, it means that, you know, probably in the second half of next year, the judges might come with a conclusion. And then, of course, they will send it back to the General Assembly, and the General Assembly will deal with it as such. So, you know, comparing, you know, the question of the gentleman about any date for the ICC investigation and the ICJ, at least, you know, when it comes to the ICJ, we could say probably, you know, the late of the second half of next year, you know, we will have such an opinion. But for the ICC, nobody really knows, because, you know, it's an ongoing crimes. You know, it's not that, you know, crime did happen once and stopped. These are ongoing crimes, and as a result of the ongoing crimes, you know, that will add to the, you know, level of investigation and the need to continue even further. This is really the problem that we do have.
Will it have an impact on the future negotiation? Because the questions of the settlers are at the heart of the two-state solutions. I mean, it's one of the big questions. And then the ICJ will take a decision on the legality or not of it. So do you think, and is it your plan to push with that decision for the next step? I mean, the next discussion for peace discussion.
بشكل
or
إيجابي.
negotiation.
إيه؟
بتساهم بشكل إيجابي.
احكي
It's a different.
ما سمعتش.
It's illegal.
I'm trying to explain. Well, our belief is that it contributes positively to negotiations because it will draw the clear lines. What is legal and what is illegal, and what is entitled for Palestine and what is entitled for Israel. So if it will do anything, it will contribute to a final solution, positively, in that sense.
But it's a legal question. It's
Yeah.
a legal matter, not political.
Okay.
Sorry, one final question. You talked about the difference between humanitarian pause and ceasefire. And you said you're positive that the EU will decide to call for a ceasefire, but the draft resolution now is speaking of humanitarian pauses. How can you be positive that they will call for a ceasefire, and is there anything you can do to push your point that you want a ceasefire over a humanitarian pause?
You know, obviously, I don't have the confidence that, they will go for, a ceasefire, a full ceasefire. But, I'm confident that they will have a very serious discussion and they will be able to understand the difference between a humanitarian pause and between, a ceasefire. Understanding that, the humanitarian pause is not going to, help in bringing in the necessary distribution of such, goods into Gaza. And so, since, I'm, using, the human logic of how certain leaders could really think of the matter and what's really the practicality of it. I thought that this might be, the case since, an increasing number of leaders, started to question the practicality of the humanitarian pause vis-a-vis, the ceasefire, the full ceasefire. But anyway, since this issue has been put on the agenda for the discussion, it means that they will give it their full attention, and at least I know that there will be a number of countries that they will push for, a full ceasefire. I know for sure. Now, how successful they will be in order for the rest of the countries to adopt that, I don't know. But at least, we will hear that, tomorrow or probably, today about, the proceedings and what they have decided, to do and what kind of decision they have really taken regarding this matter.
بس قرارنا بكره اول بند.
ايه؟
قرارنا بكره اول بند فيه سيسفاير.
شو؟
قرارنا غدا هو اول بند فيه سيسفاير.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
توقعت عشان هيك انا ما عملتش هذا الجرافيك.
قلت اسمع.